මගේ ප්‍රශ්නය මේ වන විට අපි කවුරුත් දන්නවා මේ ඊශ්‍රායල සහ පලස්තීනයේ හමාස් සංවිධාන අතර තියෙන ගැටුම දැන් මේ වෙන විට රටවල් කිහිපයක් මේ සඳහා එකතු වෙමින් පවතිනවා සාකච්ඡා රාජ්‍ය නායකින් සාකච්ඡා කරනවා ඒ වගේම ඊයේ අපි දැක්කා ඇමරිකානු ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඊශ්‍රායලට පැමිණලා එහි අගමැතිතුමා සමග සාකච්ඡා කරනවා ඉතින් මේක මොන තත්ත්වෙන් විහිදෙන යුද්ධයක්ද නැත්නම් ඊටමත් ඉක්මනට නවති අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා ඊටමත් ඉක්මනට නවතින්න කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා නමුත් ඊයේ වෙනකොට අපි දැක්කා රෝහලකට රෝගීන් 500ක් ඉන්න රෝගීන් 500ක් රෝහලේ රෝගීන් 2000ක් විතර හිටියා 500කට ප්‍රමාණයක් ජීවිතක්ෂරපත් වුණා බෝම්බ ප්‍රහාර නිසා නමුත් ඒක ඊශ්‍රායලයේ කියන ඒගොල්ලෝ නෙමෙයි ඒ ප්‍රහාර එල්ල කරේ කියලා නමුත් වෙනත් ජිහාඩ් සංවිධානය කියලා කියනවා ඉතින් මෙවැනි කතා ඇතුලේ රාජ්‍ය නායකින් අද එක රටවල් නැත්තම් කණ්ඩායම් හැටියට අද සාකච්ඡාව වෙමින් පවතින. ඉතින් මේ තුල මට දැනගන්න ඕන ප්‍රශ්න කිහිපයක් එකතු කරලා තියෙනවා. පළවෙනි ප්‍රශ්න තමයි මෙම සිදුවීම හේතුවෙන් ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන් කොපමණ ප්‍රමාණයක් අවදානම් තත්ත්වයට පත් වී තිබේද? දෙක සිදුවීම් වලින් ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන්ගේ ජීවිත අහිමිවීම හෝ තුවාල වීම වාර්තා වී තිබේද? 3 මෙම තත්ත්වය හේතුවෙන් අවදානම්පත් ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන්ගේ ආරක්ෂාව සහ සුබ සාධනය වෙනුවෙන් විදේශ අමාත්‍යාංශයෙන් නැති පියවර මොනවාද? මැද පෙරදිග කලාපයේම තත්ත්වය ව්‍යාප්ත වූහොත් ඒ හේතුවෙන් ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන් මුහුණ ලබන අවදානම් සහගත තත්ත්වය සඳහා මුහුණ දීමට අමාත්‍යාංශ සැලසුම් කර තිබේද? ඒ වගේම මගේ අවසාන ප්‍රශ්නය තමයි මෙම තත්ත්වයේ උඩ රටක් හැටියට ජාතියක් හැටියට අපේ ස්ථාවරය කුමක්ද කියන
ගරු විදේශ කටයුතු ඇමතිතුමා
Honourable Presiding Member, with pertaining to the pertinent question raised by the Minister, the first reply for the first question, which is how many Sri Lankans are at risk due to the conflict. Approximately 8,000 Sri Lankans are in Israel. As per the reports of today, the situation in Israel is quite normal. There has been no request for repatriations from Israel. There are 17 Sri Lankans in the Gaza Strip and 6 Sri Lankans in the West Bank seeking assistance to be repatriated. They are in constant touch with the Sri Lankan representative office in Ramallah. Pertaining to the Honourable Member's second question, are there any casualties from the attacks? Interpol division of the Israel police has confirmed that one Sri Lankan has been killed during the attack by Hamas on 7th October 2023 and one Sri Lankan is still reported missing. A further Sri Lankan has got injured but has returned to his place of stay. Pertaining to the member's third question, whether actions taken by the Foreign Ministry on the welfare of Sri Lankans, the Secretary to the Foreign Affairs has appointed a team including 2 additional secretaries and 2 Director Generals to monitor the situation development in the conflict areas. They are constantly communicating with the ambassador representative concerned and provide instructions as and when required. The ambassadors in the region regularly send situation reports. Sri Lankan mission in Israel, Lebanon and Palestine have circulated emergency contact numbers for urgent queries. All the embassies concerned monitor the developments very closely and based on the information available, advise Sri Lankans residing in the jurisdictions accordingly. For Israel, Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment has allocated funds for any unforeseen emergencies. The embassy has disseminated information among the Sri Lankan community in northern Israel regarding the possibility of attacks through Lebanese and Syrian borders. Sri Lanka mission in Ramallah, Palestine, sent the letters to United Nations RWA office in Gaza and the Palestine Red Crescent Society seeking assistance for the repatriation of 17 Sri Lankans who are in the Gaza Strip. Sri Lankan representative met the head of International Red Crescent Society also for this purpose. Sri Lankan embassy in Lebanon met up with the head of IOM in Lebanon to discuss a contingency plan if the situation worsens in Lebanon. Ambassadors requested the head of the IOM for the following. A. To identify the schools or churches for Sri Lankan refugees to stay within the city. B. To discuss the Director General of the Department of Immigration in Lebanon to provide exit facilities for Sri Lankans who wish to return in the situation. see to provide basic health and food and security. So that's a contingency plan. And as pertaining to the fourth question which the honourable member raised, if the situation escalates in the region, what is the plan of the foreign ministry regarding the Sri Lanka's risk? Sri Lankan embassy in Egypt is in contact with the foreign ministry in I beg your pardon. Sri Lanka's embassy in Egypt is in contact with the foreign ministry in Egypt regarding the evacuation of 17 Sri Lankans in Gaza through the Rafah border. Once it's open, copies of the travel documents have already been sent for the necessary approvals. The Sri Lankan embassy in Israel doesn't see an immediate requirement for evacuation of Sri Lankans in Israel. However, the evacuation plan is expected to be less hassle in Israel, as the migrant workers are registered with the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment and the embassy. However, the ministry is working out a contingency plan for evacuation in coordination with our embassy in Israel if the situation escalates. Pertaining to the honourable member's question, what Sri Lanka's stand on the Palestinian issue, Sri Lanka condemns in no uncertain terms the attacks targeting civilians by anyone and expresses its grave concern about the ongoing escalation of violence and military action in Gaza, which has resulted in deaths and injuries to many innocent civilians and children. Sri Lanka strongly condemns the violent attacks targeting civilians in Israel by Hamas and call for immediate release of all hostages taken into Gaza. Sri Lanka unreservedly condemns the brutal shelling of the hospital in Gaza, which resulted in the death of hundreds of civilians. Sri Lanka urges an immediate halt to violence and calls on all parties to exercise maximum restraint to prevent further civilian casualties. Sri Lanka's position with regard to the use of terroristic means remains the same, and we condemn terrorism in all its form, including by all those who resort to violence to achieve their goals, whether political or otherwise. Sri Lanka also calls for free movement of essential items and humanitarian aid, including food, medicine and supply of electricity and water to Gaza. Rapid and unimpeded access of humanitarian aid and relief via a mechanism is essential to address the urgent needs of civilians. I wish to bring to your attention the statement made by His Excellency the President on the unprecedented situation in Israel and Palestine. His Excellency the President stated that Sri Lanka has always supported the two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestine conflict, and that the fighting and violence must be brought to an end immediately. Further, during a meeting with the Prime Minister of Pakistan on 17th October in Beijing, the two leaders called upon all parties to the conflict to prevent further civilian casualties and to open a humanitarian corridor to help those under siege in Gaza with essential food, water and medical supplies. They further stressed upon the necessity to achieve a political solution to the prolonged conflict in Gaza and appealed to all parties concerned to seek avenues to resolve the conflict through negotiations based on the two-state solution. Sri Lanka calls all concerned parties to address the root cause of the conflict to achieve long-lasting peace, while recognizing the legitimate and sensitive security concerns of both the Palestinian and the Israeli people. Sri Lanka maintains consistent policy with regard to the Palestinian cause and voices its position, including in the multilateral fora. Sri Lanka remains committed to supporting a just and comprehensive negotiated political settlement to the Palestinian issue in line with the relevant United Nations resolution leading to two states, Palestine and Israel, living side by side based on the 1967 borders. His Excellency the President and Honourable Foreign Minister Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs have clearly and regularly reiterated Sri Lanka's position in the United Nations General Assembly statements and have voiced their support for a two-state solution. Sri Lanka has continued to chair the United Nations Special Committee to investigate Israeli practices affecting the human rights of the Palestinian people and other Arabs of the occupied territories for over 3 decades since its establishment in 1968. Sri Lanka has thus been a significant voice in the United Nations consistently on the violation of human rights in the occupied territories. Every year, in this message on the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, His Excellency the President has reaffirmed Sri Lanka's position and called on the international community and all parties concerned to make renewed efforts to achieve a lasting solution. Sri Lanka reiterates in this context the importance of an early implementation of the United Nations General Assembly resolution regarding two-state solution on the basis of the 1967 borders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Parliament will meet tomorrow 9:30.